Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at basic radio communications. So this is a guide that will cover all essential radio communication skills that you would use in the Australian Army Cadets, and this will hopefully teach you proper radio procedure, some basic equipment use, and key protocols. This lesson is oriented for cadets, but is publicly available. So the three main objectives at the end of this video, you should be able to communicate effectively on the radio and be able to transmit clear, concise messaging using proper radio etiquette and procedure. 2, you should know the equipment. You should have equipment proficiency. You have familiarity with basic radio components and their functions. And 3, you'll be able to conduct situational reporting, which is lock stats, CASEVACs, and SITREPs. So there are 4 main components to the radio that you need to know. First is the push to talk button, or the PTT. So you hold that button down to transmit, and when you release, you will stop transmitting and be able to receive signals. Secondly, there will be a volume control somewhere on the radio. Sometimes it's a button, sometimes it's a twist knob, but that is to adjust your volume. Third is your antenna. So that is obviously where you're transmitting and receiving from. But some general tips for the antenna is always make sure that it is upright and elevated for the best performance. So that means it's facing upright. And finally, a status LED. So that will light up if you're transmitting, and it will light up when you're receiving. Next, we have some general radio communication best practices. First is to identify. Begin transmission by stating the recipient's call sign followed by your own. 2, pause. So wait a moment after pressing the push to talk before speaking, so that the full message will get through and it doesn't sort of dart off with you saying half of your sentence. 3 is to speak clearly, so use a slow, clear voice. Spell out complex words using the phonetic alphabet, which I'll speak about in a moment. And 4, be concise. Keep messaging brief and to the point, and use standard pro words to streamline communication. So this is the phonetic alphabet. I'm sure you're familiar with it. You might have heard it a few times here and there. But as you can see, on the left here is the phonetic alphabet. So some common pro words. First, transmission control. So over. At the end of a transmission, you will say over. I'll give an example in a moment, but saying over means that you're expecting a response. 2 is out. So that is at the end of transmission and you're not expecting a response. 3 is roger, which means a message has been received and understood. Message clarity. Say again, which essentially means repeat last transmission. I spell is when you're spelling out a difficult word. Correction is when you're fixing a mistake in a transmission. And situational. So you can say break, which is pause in long messages, and 2 is silence, which will mean there will be no transmitting on that net until otherwise stated. And also just going back to where it says say again, you will never say repeat on the radio, you only ever say again. So next we have some numerical pronunciation. So pronouncing single digits. Pronounce clearly as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. For multi-digit numbers, you'll speak each digit separately. So 123 becomes 1, 2, 3. Using decimal points, you just use decimal between whole numbers and decimals. Practice. Regular drills improve speed and accuracy in number transmission. So you might have to use it. It's not super common, but if you are using it for, say, a grid coordinate or whatever that be, it's probably good to practice. So some radio's do's and don'ts. On the right is the full list, so if you want to pause and look at that, but the 4 main ones is maintain a log if you can. Sometimes you can't, but if you are able to, maintain a signal operator log, which will be attached in the document in the description or in the comment section. There's a sort of document that is publicly available, which has all of the little pieces you can cut out and put into your Viewy Tui. 2, don't obstruct antenna, so avoid letting the antenna touch foliage, objects, or your body. 3, elevate position, choose higher ground or clearings for better signal strength. And 4, don't expose your position, so avoid transmitting from obvious or exposed locations. So just careful how you mix point 3 and 4. Emergency procedures. So first, a CASEVAC. So the most important part about this is no duff prefix. Begin all real CASEVAC requests with no duff, no duff, no duff. 2, net priority. All stations must be must be off the net unless asked to relay. So there'll be no communication if you hear no DAF unless you've been asked by the call sign to relay that on further. 3, clear communication. Provide concise, accurate information about casualties and location. Again, if you're wanting to provide the full CASEVAC form, that is again found in that document in the description or comment section where there's a procedure for that. 4, confirmation. Always request a readback, so if you would like to, or if possible, request a readback so you make sure that message was received clearly and correctly. So here's just a very basic, simple radio exchange. So Hawk 1 initiates the conversation or communication. He'll say, Hawk 2, this is Hawk 1, over. Hawk 2 will respond and say, go ahead, Hawk 1, over. Hawk 1, Hawk 2, enemies tracked 2 kilometers west, break. Hawk 1, take cover 2 kilometers east at Delta Shack, read back, over. Hawk 2 will respond and say, I read back, enemy track 2 kilometers west, take cover 2 kilometers east at Delta Shack, over. And then Hawk 1 will respond and say, correct, over. And then Hawk 2 might respond and say something like acknowledged out, for example. So as we can see here, I've just attached a few more basic procedures for RATEL. So 1, always be aware that radio traffic is logged. 2, messages are to be brief and concise. 3, do not use over and out. Use one or the other at appropriate points. So as I said, over means you're expecting a response, and out means that the conversation is over. Do not use name or rank over radio. Use appointment titles or call signs. So again, in that document that I will attach, there are a list of appointment titles, but call signs are another form that you can use. Use the phonetic alphabet. 6, hold down the push to talk switch or button for 2 to 3 seconds before and after your transmission to make sure the whole message gets through. 7, if unable to make contact, move several meters to a new location and or higher ground. If communications are not loud and clear, use antenna long in preferences to antenna short. So in some radios, there might be a longer antenna and a shorter one. So obviously you can switch between the two depending on the situation. So that's really only applicable if you're carrying multiple antennas. 8, maintain battery conservation and discipline. So, if you're not expecting any communication, you don't have to have your radio on, unless, it's really up to whoever's in charge, but just conserve the battery where possible. 9, only use the frequencies allocated, all right, so frequencies or channels. 10, if necessary, relay through other substations. So this is getting a little bit more complicated, but essentially if you're too far away from, say, headquarters to transmit directly, you can go to or call up other units on the net and ask them to relay your message to headquarters, for example. 11, always use correct RATEL procedure, so everything you've learned here, and also everything that's listed on that document below. And 12, finally, never use repeat, only ever use say again. So this is a 9-line medevac request. It's based off one in the document attached in the description or the comments. I made it. It's quite straightforward. I'll also attach the link to my website that I've created where you'll just be able to download it as a PDF. It's just a Google site, so if you go on there, you'll be able to find that, and I'll keep adding documents to that over the course of this channel. Alright, thanks for watching the video. What I've done here is I've attached the document that I used to make this video. It is publicly available online. There's about 6 pages, and feel free to pause wherever you want, take screenshots, or find the link in the description if you want to print it out. But you can essentially cut these out into little sections and put them in your Viewy TUI, and I'll chuck up a photo of what that looks like on the end of this video. Thanks for watching.